LCFS in that marketplace.
Thank you very much. I have other questions, but my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Now I turn to our newest senator, Senator Ricketts. Welcome to the committee, and your 5 minutes for questions.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our testifiers here today about the future of transportation fuels. And Mr. Cooper, you've got a great barber there. That joke never gets old. All right. So one of the things I always talk about is ethanol. I always say three things. Ethanol saves consumers money at the pump. It is going to help clean up the environment, and it's going to create jobs here in America. Ethanol must be central to any discussion that we're going to have about the future of transportation fuels. And Senator Stabenow, thank you for mentioning the dollar savings in some places, because that's awesome. That's part of my talking points today too. That E10, that 10% blend of ethanol, 90% gasoline is about 98% of all the gasoline that is sold in this country. E15 and the EPA's decision to allow that last summer helped with the high inflation that people were experiencing, bring down their fuel costs. Senator Stabenow mentioned the dollar. I think the average is about 16 cents. I just filled up my gas last time I was home. It was like 40 to 45 cents a gallon on E10, helping save that. And of course, E20, E30, E85, as you mentioned, all has future potential on that. But also, as we've discussed about ethanol helping to reduce carbon emissions, the use of ethanol blended fuels led to a reduction of nearly 1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent greenhouse gas emissions between 2008 and 2020. Environmental Health and Engineering found that corn ethanol is 46% less carbon intensive than gasoline. In addition, ethanol creates economic opportunities for our families, especially in Nebraska. There's over 1,000 jobs, direct jobs in Nebraska related to the ethanol industry, and it creates the demand for corn from our farmers. I would also note that the byproduct, the distiller's grain, goes in to feed our livestock. So it is just a wonderful thing there. And ethanol has always fueled our trucks, cars, and other transportation vehicles along the American roads and highways. So, Mr. Cooper, I want you to talk a little bit more about this administration, as well as the state of California, have classified electric vehicles as zero emissions. Biofuels are considered low emissions. How would a national clean fuel standard impact the use of biofuels and this new CFS? How would it work with the RFS, the Renewable Fuel Standard? Would it replace it? Would it coexist? How would that work?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. And yeah, we certainly believe that an LCFS or clean fuel standard done right at the national level would complement a renewable fuel standard. Again, the RFS was primarily about volume, right, and energy independence and reducing imports. A clean fuel standard is more directly about reducing emissions and based on performance. So we do think the two would work together very well, complement one another. And as I mentioned earlier, the RFS was really that bedrock and kind of the foundation for the renewable fuels industry, and it's important to keep that foundation in place. So we do think the two would work together. And then in terms of how the biofuels industry would respond to a clean fuel standard, we expect that it would be similar in ways to the response in the California marketplace and in Oregon. It's been interesting to see some of the different ways that the markets have responded to those programs in those states. As I mentioned, the E85 market in California is off the charts. They're using more E85 in that state than any other state in the country as an outcome of the low carbon fuel standard. They're also one of the last two states that hasn't yet approved E15. Well, guess what? They're moving toward approval of E15 because the market is calling for it via the LCFS. So we do believe a properly designed clean fuel standard, and again, doing the life cycle analysis correctly, would drive increased use of ethanol and other renewable fuels above and beyond what is called for under the renewable fuel standard.
And I think we've talked about it a little bit here. I'm concerned that any national clean fuels program could prioritize electric vehicles over liquid fuel vehicles, including clean biofuels. And this will only make us more dependent on our foreign adversaries who control the majority of the worldwide production of several key components. For example, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, controls 60% of the raw lithium mines in the world, 50% of the lithium processing and refining, and 75% of the lithium-ion battery megafactories. How can you ensure that a new national low-carbon fuel standard won't falsely prop up EVs to satisfy an agenda and do significant damage to liquid fuels, including biofuels, in the process?
A great question, and thank you, Senator. Again, if the life cycle analysis is done correctly and the carbon intensity scores are developed in a fair and transparent way, we believe that renewable fuels are going to compete very well with electric vehicles in terms of the carbon reductions that they provide. And as the ranking member mentioned, internal combustion engines and conventional vehicles are far less expensive than EVs. And so, again, if you step out of the way and let the market respond to these carbon reduction requirements, we think it's going to drive the market toward increased use of renewable fuels, which are the lowest cost option of meeting these carbon reduction requirements. Now, if you stack on top of that an EV mandate or something like California is trying to do, then yeah, that changes the calculation immensely. But we, again, think a truly technology neutral standard is going to put renewable fuels in a very competitive position.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.